Are you sometimes overwhelmed by the news and the moral dilemmas and changes in modern medicine that now confront us each day? Find out what you can do about it in this edition of Life Matters. Our host, Brian Johnston, has been a teacher at every academic level, from adult education and junior college down through high school, junior high, and even 5th and 6th grade. As is so often the case with teachers, he has also coached. Many on the California pro-life team call him the Life Coach. Today, you'll find out why on Life Matters. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program on the right to life. What is the right to life? Is this all about abortion? No, it's not all about abortion. It's about something much deeper. Abortion's important because an abortion kills a vulnerable human being, and that obviously takes away their life, but it harms also the mother who's been somehow convinced by the culture. We are going to talk about how the culture wishes now to convince you to dismiss human life, and that'll cost you, just like it cost that mother. And yes, I think mothers should be counseled, but that's not the answer in the right to life debate. They're actually some of the wounded in this very real battle of ideas. And we know that the Red Cross is an important institution. It helps those that have been wounded, but the Red Cross never won any wars. And this war is a battle of ideas. We're here to equip you to understand what's at stake. Today's program is going to focus right now on the most extraordinary change in history I've ever seen, and that is the intentional, culture-wide suppression of objective facts and an intentional crushing of hope. We're going to talk about the coronavirus pandemic, and I'm actually going to suggest it's also a panic. You're going to hear about some stories. We're going to have a fun time doing this because, hey, if you can't laugh, then you don't see just how tragic and how ironic the times are. We're going to talk about some movies. Why movies? Because movies are in many ways the new literature. Many of you know that I'm a big fan of literature, and movies in some ways have become a replacement for literature. C.S. Lewis said this about good books. He said some books are meant to be tasted, others chewed, and others still swallowed whole. And that would be the definition of a classic book that just has great depth and value. Lewis also said this. He said, by reading good literature, I can become 1,000 men and still remain myself. And what that means is it gives you the ability to understand more deeply the human condition and the battles that we're in. And friend, we are in a huge battle right now. If there's one word that you came away from this episode with, that one word is zinc. What? Johnston, what are you saying? Zinc. Zinc is of huge significance right now. That word is being suppressed. And the reason is it's very practical, and science has demonstrated again and again. And don't believe me, I'm going to show you where you can go to study. You need to study to show yourself approved. We're going to talk about what you can do right now, how you can see this battle with new eyes, and how you can equip and protect others. The fact is, we already know it's those with lowered immune systems at greatest risk, those in nursing homes. But there's something wrong. Why isn't the state of California or the state of New York going in and helping those seniors boost their immune system? Instead, they go in and they clean doorknobs and they give paper to put over the face of that patient. That's an absurd answer when we know it's a self-evident truth that those with lowered immune systems are those who are most at risk of dying. And now we're seeing this is intentional. There is an intentional act of ignorance. So we're going to talk about how to learn. We've talked about that before in Life Matters. There's entire episodes dedicated to science and what it really is. Science is merely a way of learning new things. Science is a method that can help you understand things, and it isn't just for eggheads and people with letters after their name. Science is really something that you use every day to some degree, and you need to learn how to use it better. So science is a tool. That's all it is. And just like a tool in a toolbox, it can be very useful when used for good. But just like a tool in a toolbox, it can be misused. It can be used for great evil. Someone can use a pipe wrench to fix a lot of plumbing problems, or they could use it as a murder weapon. So tools are not the problem. It's how they're used. And we are seeing a deliberate and intentional use of science to mislead. And this is a terrifying moment in our nation when you understand that it isn't just certain governments, state governments. There's a worldview now that's controlling Google and Yahoo and Facebook that prohibit discussion of hope when it comes to facing the SARS-2 virus. We're also going to talk about specifics. You know what? That the COVID-19, that's actually the illness. According to the World Health Organization, and later in the program, I'll give you all the sites. I want you to check on this. Don't believe me because I tell you. There's objective scientific facts that have been hushed up. But the actual virus is called the SARS-2 CoV virus. And that's a designation by the World Health Organization. Why aren't we calling it SARS-2? Because you just might think, well, we've had SARS before. SARS-1 actually is very, very similar to SARS-2. They both came apparently from bats, and there's a lot of details that you're not being told. There's a lot of facts that are publicly known and silenced by those who have media control. So we, in a sense, are underground radio right now. This is like the BBC broadcasting behind the German lines, behind the Iron Curtain, Voice of America in its truest sense. Brought information that had been suppressed. We're seeing true information being suppressed. We want to talk about the real SARS-2 virus. That's the name of the virus, is SARS-2 COVID, which is directly related to the SARS-1 virus. We never did any of this, what we're doing now, when we dealt with SARS-1. And when people understand that, they start asking deeper questions. So SARS-2 is the name of the virus. The name of the illness is COVID-19. And remember, it's a lot like AIDS. AIDS was the name of the illness. The virus that caused AIDS was known as the HIV virus, human immunodeficiency virus, and it caused the illness which we call AIDS. The virus that's going around right now causing a panic in this pandemic, it's a panic. This panic is being caused mostly by fear and lack of information. And when you see the media intentionally stifle and silence information, you need to go back in history and look at where that's done before and be willing to fight, be willing to be equipped, be willing to protect other lives. And that's the purpose on Life Matters. We underscore the right to life, the God-given right to be alive that the government didn't give you, but the government does have a duty to protect your lives. When we come back, we're going to talk about the importance of zinc and the importance of you stepping up in this battle of ideas.
Life Matters continues after this.
Are you willing to step up to be a lifeguard? We're asking you to consider becoming a Life Matters lifeguard. On Life Matters, we cut to the depths of this cultural battle of ideas that has robbed America of its core values and robbed the innocent of their right to life. Anything you can pledge is appreciated. But if you pledge $19 a month, we will make you part of the Life Matters lifeguard team, getting you the important tools and dynamic information to help save lives and encourage others in understanding the lurking dangers in today's deadly cross-currents of culture. Your pledge helps us with our costs of broadcast. It keeps the full understanding of the right to life going out over our numerous radio stations and also facilitates the important podcast that carries even more programming. Please go to the front page of the Life Matters website and click on the donate button. Your donation is deeply appreciated.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Okay, as we talked about before, the real name for this virus is SARS-2, and that is designated by the World Health Organization. I recommend you can Google this online, go to the International Committee on Taxonomy of Viruses, and that's sponsored by the World Health Organization, and they have specifically named this virus SARS-2. The SARS-1 virus, if you will recall, and again, look this up, WHO has published most of what I'm telling you right now. If you look that up, The SARS virus of 2002-2003 was very serious, and it stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. It also started in China. It is extremely similar. In fact, studies show, and I'll read you some of those studies. This particular study I'm reading to you is from Future Virology, which is a publication. You can see it online. This is publicized on the 20th of May, 2020. It's pretty recent. It is published, and the authors are Amona Fani, Ali Timuri, and Shoku Ghaffari. This is an international study. The abstract, if you go through the abstract, again, you can see this online. Go to comparison of COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 pathogens with SARS-CoV, and just look that up. By the way, SARS, Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. CoV refers to coronavirus. That's the type of virus it is. And you know what they say, among other things, that this particular virus that we're looking at now, SARS-CoV-2, is very similar to SARS-CoV-1. Again, why isn't that talked about? If you talk about SARS-CoV-1 and 2, you may think, well, what did we learn from SARS-CoV-1? So I'm going to skip for now the politicization you're hearing in the media, that everything they have to do is oppose anything that President Trump says. And, if you support the idea that there's treatments available, you're supporting Trump. We must dismiss you. I'm going to read to you facts that predate all of this, and that are directly related to the SARS-1 challenge and the scientific understandings of both SARS-1 and SARS-2. Remember, COVID-19 is the name of the illness, just like AIDS is the name of the illness caused by HIV. So the illness is COVID-19, and in popular use, a lot of people will call the virus COVID-19, but it's SARS, and we've confronted SARS before. And maybe they don't want you thinking that way, because we didn't do any of this in the United States. We didn't do any of this absurdity when we dealt with SARS-1. Well, in this study, again from Future Virology, May of 2020, it points out that SARS-2 was 96.2% identical to the bat beta coronaviruses from lineage B. Coronaviruses are broken down in nuances, and there's alpha, beta, gamma, and delta coronaviruses. And so this particular virus, we know this, and by the way, there's a lot we could know, but the Chinese Communist government won't tell us about its origin. We would be able to know even more if they would help. But as you know, they allowed it to spread around the world, whether it was engineered in their lab. Again, they have a lab that creates these viruses, and we know that. And they have dealt with these very same beta viruses, beta coronaviruses, in that same lab. So there's something they're not telling us. They protected the rest of their country from Wuhan travelers, but they sent those Wuhan travelers, infected Wuhan travelers around the world. Something wrong right there. But let me go back. We know that SARS-CoV-2 is nearly identical to that bat-originated beta coronavirus known as SARS-1. Now, that's a pretty high percentage. So, did we learn anything from SARS-1? And we did learn a lot. And in fact, I'm going to go back and read to you scientific studies. Again, these are pre-political. This has nothing to do with the evil Donald Trump. He says there's hope. How dare he? He's not a scientist like us. We're really smart. We've been to university where we were taught ideologies, and he doesn't agree with our ideology. We must attack him, even if it means killing people. Now, that may sound harsh.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. It may sound harsh, but these people really do believe in ideology as their faith. And part of their ideology is that there are disposable human beings. We know that with abortion. We also know it with euthanasia. If you characterize it as voluntary euthanasia, it's okay to kill those people. They do not believe in the right to life. Let me just cut to the chase. And so if they suppress knowledge of what can help people, it doesn't bother them because that isn't their goal. Their goal is to have a fundamental transformation of government. That's the goal of Marxism. That's the goal of National Socialism. If you recall, Hitler created, and he wasn't the only one, by the way. He was merely the mouthpiece for a whole cultural ideology that sought to improve on communism. It was socialism, and then it was National Socialism. And we're seeing progressive socialism controlling the ideology of America's academic elites, and it controls the ideology of many of those in the media and obviously large parts of the Democrat Party. Human life, certain human beings are disposable if you look at the ideology of progressivism. It is a Hegelian progressive worldview that sees the change and hope of mankind found in changing government systems. Very basic overview there, but look into Marxism, look into the dialectic, look into what's going on in Seattle, what's going on in Washington, D.C. There's a frontal assault on America's basic premises, and it has to do with the nature of government and the nature of individual human lives. And that's what we talk about here on Life Matters, protecting individual human lives. So I'm going to skip now ahead to some of the cures that have already been mentioned. If you weren't stunned, if you didn't know about it, then you need to wake up and smell the coffee. We've been talking about what Donald Trump suggested back in February of 2020. He saw a French study that showed that there were treatments available for SARS-2, for COVID-19, if you will. And that study was built on other studies. And it's come back again and again, and you know about it. It has to do with the use of what was originally designed as a malarial drug, and that's hydroxychloroquine. But hydroxychloroquine in the 1960s was also being used against certain viruses. And when it's used against viruses, it actually has a dramatic impact. But it doesn't work against viruses like it does against malaria. Go back in Life Matters. We have several episodes. We won't reiterate the details, but we've gone into the science of this. It allows zinc to easily enter your cells. Your cell walls, they're semi-permeable. But if zinc can't get in there, then it can't go in and attack the virus. It's actually zinc that kills viruses. That's been detailed before. I'm going to give you some science right now about zinc. But you need to know there's been suppression of this. I've met numerous doctors in California that underscore the fact that hydroxychloroquine does work, that it's zinc that actually is the most effective way to build your immune system, and it's the zinc that actually controls and hits the virus and protects you because it doesn't let the virus replicate. The virus very simply pretends it's a protein in your cells. It lies to your cells. The zinc shortcuts its reproduction, and then you get better. Now, something you've also heard, and I want to read to you from a very important publication, the British Medical Journal of 2003. This is before this was politicized. British Medical Journal of 2003, there was an important editorial piece written, and this is critically important to understand our battle because something else about the SARS-2 or COVID-19 panic is we're told that minorities are particularly hard hit, and they're right. And so the question is, why is it that elderly and minorities are so hard hit? And I've literally seen it implied on the television. It's because you're a racist. That's why. You're part of a racist culture. That's why these minorities are hard hit. But there's actually very objective, straightforward science. And it has to do with diet and cultural habits. And I know this, and it isn't racial. I know many white people that have very bad diets. I've met them, and I've met many that have died, I believe, as a result of very poor dietary habits. Some dear friends who refuse to eat green vegetables of any kind. That's true. And that particular individual died from cancer, and that cancer was really a dietary issue because it was a cancer of the gut. And I believe there's many illnesses that can be tied to what you take into your body. We know smoking causes certain cancers, but your diet has a dramatic impact. So I'm going to read to you from the British Medical Journal of 2003. This article was brought up because of SARS-1. British Medical Journal 326, published in 2003. Rapid response, zinc ions, and the fight against SARS. The discovery that SARS is caused by a coronavirus, again, this is written in 2003, about the first SARS, which is 96% identical to SARS-2. Is caused by a coronavirus related to a group of viruses causing the common cold may be of considerable significance in relation to evidence that zinc ions provide a natural protective mechanism against viruses, especially those causing respiratory tract infections. Over the past 30 years, researchers have demonstrated the critical role of zinc in diverse physiological processes such as growth and development, maintenance and priming of the immune system, and tissue repair. This is known objective science. It's got nothing to do with Donald Trump. So don't get involved in the political aspect. Look at the real science. He goes on, direct antiviral effects of zinc ions have been demonstrated against rhinoviruses responsible for the common cold, and the role of zinc in the respiratory epithelium has recently come under scrutiny. So it's already proven against the cold, which is a form of coronavirus. Now, I'm not saying that SARS-2 is just like the cold. I'm saying they're both coronaviruses, but SARS-1 is almost identical to SARS-2, and this is where he's going. Okay, zinc has been shown to directly decrease the incidence of respiratory infections in young children from developing countries. Zinc deficiency has been described as a worldwide public health problem, and it is not confined to developing countries. Now, here we go. Even in the USA, moderate to severe zinc deficiency can occur throughout the population. He's going to get into the causes, and that's where you're going to see your diet, your cultural diet. So if you have fried food and candy bars, if you have soft drinks laced with sugar, if you're not intaking zinc, your body does not produce zinc. You have to get it through proteins, meats, certain vegetables. Broccoli has a lot of zinc. I love broccoli. Food grown in soils that are low in zinc won't pull up as much zinc. Superphosphate fertilizers reduce zinc uptake by plants. Eating foods that are low in zinc. Very few foods are naturally zinc rich. As I just said, he confirmed there's a handful of foods that are zinc rich. You need those foods to build your immune system. Food contaminants and additives further reduce intestinal zinc absorption. There are cultural values and our dietary habits can have an impact. So we're told that SARS-2, which causes COVID-19, that's racial. But it could be that the dietary habits of certain subcultures aren't providing them enough zinc. In fact, this is exactly what he is saying in 2003 regarding nearly identical virus, the SARS-1 virus. Both SARS-1 and SARS-2 came from bats. If you go into the articles I mentioned to you, you can see more about this interrelationship. And if you go to the taxonomy of SARS-2, which is sometimes called COVID-19, go to the World Health Organization and look that up. The International Committee on Taxonomy of Viruses confirms this. This is SARS-2, and we know a lot about SARS. So if we go to what we already know, it's an indicator. I'm not saying it's the final answer, but it's pretty darn clear. And scientists now that have come up with this, that hydroxychloroquine, which helps zinc operate, that actually has been shown demonstrably. And yet now the media, and not just the popular media, we are seeing Google. I tried to look up American Frontline physicians. They've been removed from the web. This is serious suppression. This is prohibited knowledge. You may not learn about it. We do not want this free speech out there. It's dangerous. You must only do what we tell you. That's a very serious progressive worldview. As I told you, progressivism is a religious worldview about the government. It's very much related to communism, which is also a progressive worldview. If you want to go back to our episode on Hegel, it explains this thinking that mankind has a destiny. That's the struggle over the years has formed our history. And now we get to change, and we get to change history and bring about what's going to fulfill mankind's destiny. That's a very religious worldview. That's what Marxism does. That's what National Socialism does. That's what progressive socialism does. And they believe it's so strong, they're going to force it on you. And they will not allow you to debate it. You must embrace the destiny they have in mind. That's the battle right now. And they're using the media to silence hope that this particular illness can be controlled, and they're using the illness to further control us. So please, I'm going to ask you, do your studies. Don't just listen to me. Look up SARS 1 and 2. Another study, New England Journal of Medicine, is in February of 2020, 382, Chapter 8, New England Journal of Medicine. And that is an article by Stanley Perlman, where he says another decade, another coronavirus. And again, he does the comparative analysis that this is SARS-2. There's SARS-1 and there's SARS-2, and that they're very much related. And again, if we had more information from the Chinese about what really went on, we could draw even more clear parallels. But these studies that are available now show that there's a lot we know about SARS-2 that is not being discussed. There are treatments available. And what's very clear for all coronaviruses, we know that, we've known it since the 60s, that hydroxychloroquine helps zinc enter your cells. You can have hydroxychloroquine, but if you don't have zinc in your system, your body does not produce zinc. You have to get it through diet or supplement. If you want to help the elderly, get them zinc. If you could only do one thing, get them lots of zinc. And I have other articles. We don't have time to go into them. You don't want to have low doses of zinc. I actually like Zicam tablets. They removed zinc from the nasal swabs because of, I believe, our opponents. But you can get zinc in high dosages in some of these tablets, and it makes it tasty. It can be rough on its own, but zinc tablets, you want to get higher dosages of zinc. That's going to protect your immune system. It's a self-evident truth now. This is really about your immune system. Putting paper over your face is not a substitute for building up your immune system. And unless you study, you're going to be misled by those who are now openly seeking to suppress common sense. They're seeking to suppress real hope. They want to use fear, and as the second Roosevelt said, the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. And he was referring to other governments. He was referring to Marxism and National Socialism and their attempt to control humanity using fear and using oppressive government. So it's an extraordinary moment in history. The American government is founded on the value of every individual life. And if you want that to continue, you are going to have to get involved in this battle of ideas. Thanks for listening.
Learn more about everything in today's show online at lifematters.life, where you'll find all the resources you need to protect life. Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life. Wherever you are in the nation, you can find out more at National Right to Life. You can find vital pro-life information and also find the access to your state and local Right to Life affiliate. Get informed and get involved.